What's up, everybody, and welcome to BioS3 Raw TV. Today we're going to talk a little bit about training as a teenager, which is piggybacking off the video that I put up about my first competition, which I was a 17-year-old high school kid, but I'd already started training at about 15 years old after I got in trouble and suspended from school. My older cousin had come over that day and made me work out, so I had already had about maybe 2 years under my belt of kind of, I wouldn't say it was advanced training or hardcore training. I'd say it was kind of putzing around trying to figure out, how to train, because you got like books and stuff you'd look at and magazines you'd read and try to figure out what was what. And then it got a little more intense after that once I got to Gold's Gym, Somerset, with Al Thurston and those guys. So when I first started out, because people are asking me, like, have you always done partial range of motion? What did you do when you gained the most amount of weight? Well, as a teen, I did the basic exercises: bench press, squat. I wasn't big on pull-ups because I couldn't really do them. So it was like lat pull-downs. I started with some deadlifts and stuff, and deadlifts never worked for me. I could never do them properly without putting strain on my back, my lower back, and it hurting. And I didn't know at the time, so I kind of kept forcing the issues, and I'm going to do them, I have to do them, I have to do them. Between the deadlifts and the squats, I would always feel those more in my back rather than my legs. Or, my lower back more than, with deadlifts on my back and squats on my legs. So I couldn't figure out what was going on, but I just forced the issue and kept going. And I did those basic movements for a long time until I figured, when we got to Gold's Gym, I had seen, and I think we were doing like, we were actually doing a split already. It was like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, full body, and very briefly, and then it jumped right to like a 5-day split where you train one body part per day. And that was like, a couple months after I was training. So basically I jumped a little fast into the split, but I probably should have stayed on the 3-a-week, basic full body workouts for a while, but I didn't know any better. There was no internet, there was not many people out there that would open up to you and help you with this stuff. So basically I was just trying to read different magazines and books that I could find to be able to know how to do this stuff. And it wasn't until I got to Gold's, and then we started doing different weekly splits for body parts that I progressed a little bit. I went from like 135 up to 145 the following year, and that's by the time I was 18. And by the time I was 19, I was about 170 pounds, but I competed at like 153. So it was progressing slowly, but it's still like 10 pounds a year jump I was making as I was leaving my teens. And that was until I got to like my early 20s, which I was 20 years old at the time. And then I was trying to do that magazine splits. I said, okay, I'm more advanced now, I'm not a teenager. And then at 21, I hopped on the juice and then blew up. So technically, I was no longer a teenager when I made my best gains. I was 21 years old. I went on the juice, and I did gain about 60 pounds within that 10-week time frame that I was on the gear. Now, I do feel like it was what I was doing training-wise and eating that I gained that weight, but I also feel like I had trained myself into such a hole, into like such a deficit of muscle loss and catabolism, that when I went on the steroids, it reversed that almost instantly. And when I had enough food at that point and my body could build muscle and flipped on the anabolic switch, it just grew, because I had about 3 years of training that was fucking myself up, driving myself into a hole where, had I not taken the juice, I probably would have continued to go down that road and probably not made any gains. So, but during that time, I was using the Big Beyond Belief program, which I had used to gain that last 10 pounds before I jumped on the juice, and which I was also using while I was on the juice. So you see that program, the Big Beyond Belief, which was like the 4-day split and the 6-day split, was the ones that me and Donnie used, my training partner, is all very similar to what I do nowadays. As a matter of fact, the guy that invented Big Beyond Belief is the guy that I get all my training from now, Phil Hernon, and he's adapted it over time, and that's how I train now. So I still do a very low amount of sets, moderate reps, high intensity, and that's what I did back then. But between 20 and 35, I kind of lost my way a little bit. So let's go back to the teenage training. So that's my deal, so that you guys wanted to know. As a teenager, I do think, without a doubt, you can grow and you can put on those newbie gains that are like 20 pounds if you're training and allowing yourself to rest. Now, you don't have to train to failure. You just have to get in the gym and train with those basic movements. Get out of the gym and then feed yourself. The problem is, as a teenager, you don't really know what real good nutrition is, because you don't want to sit down and eat a can of tuna. I used to sit down and try to eat that fucking disgusting can of tuna out of the can, because that's what the bodybuilders were doing, and it wasn't working. So what I would do is go back to, you know, whatever my mom made. I had spaghetti, I had chorizo, I had shepherd's pie, I had whatever, and that was working okay until I realized there are supplements that make up for the fact that I can't eat that tuna. And this is, you know, shit, I was 16, 17 years old, 15. I was driving, so about 16 years old, where I started taking stuff like weight gainers. The very first one, Rapid Weight Gain by Challenge. It tastes like chalk. It was disgusting. But it worked. I was able to bring my calories up to where I was like eating more food, but I was still just eating my 3 basic meals a day and having 2 shakes. That technically makes 5 times a day nutrients were coming to my body, and that was able to get my body to grow. So if, as a teen, you're training, you know, I mean, you don't have to go balls out. You don't have to go Mike Mentzer every time you go in the gym with Dorian Yates. But you get in the gym, you train, you do your 5 sets of squats, you do your 5 sets of pull-ups, you do your 5 sets of bench, 5 or 4 sets of curls, 5 or 4 sets of push, close grip benches, hit your calves, hit your hamstrings, and get out of the gym, and you eat 5 meals a day, or you do 3 meals a day, 3 squares plus 2 shakes, you're going to grow, okay? And don't worry about drop sets, supersets, stimulating, partial ranges. Don't worry about any of that shit. That stuff is advanced techniques to where you have gained as much muscle as you're going to gain. You're plateaued, you have maxed out your newbie gains. Then you continue on with that stuff to get to another level. You start with that stuff in the beginning, you start reading, so, okay, drop sets and this split. You're absolutely going to overtrain yourself and you're not going to make any gains. And then you're going to sit there and go, I'm a hard gainer. No, you're not a hard gainer. What's happened is you're not training smart. You're training stupid. You need to train smart, hard, but smart at the same time. So you can only do that for so long before your body's just going to stop responding. So you get in the gym, you train, you take in your nutrients, you rest. Okay? Now as a teen, I did sleep a lot. So a lot of teens don't. They're busy doing shit. I would go out till, you know, I don't know, midnight or so with my buddies. We'd go to parties out in Bristol, Rhode Island. I used to hang with this kid Brad Oliver, Mikey Luther, Jared Griff, all these guys. We'd go out to the parties and stuff at different people's houses. And I'd be home like midnight, 1 o'clock, but I would sleep till like 11 or 12 the next day. So I was getting enough rest. So now I'm training, I'm feeding, and I'm resting. And, you know, I did progress. I progressed a lot faster than a lot of the other people. Now, there were definitely bigger guys than me around, but they were bigger already to begin with. Where I came from at 135 pounds, when I started training at 15 years old, 135. By the time I was 19 years old, I had gotten up to 203 pounds bulked up. Now, my body fat was higher than I wanted it to be, and when I had cut down, I was 170 pounds. But the bottom line was, I was at 19 years old, benching the 100-pound dumbbells for reps while I was talking to people, and that was just because there was nothing bigger at the gym that I trained at. When I got to World's Gym, I was benching the 120-pound dumbbells. That's 19 years old, 100% drug-free, and I was eating like a horse and training and resting, and it worked. The difference was I didn't have that same look that the drugged-up bodybuilders had that I wanted. And that, I do feel like you should wait until a certain point when your body's fully developed, you've maxed out your newbie gains, and then you make the decision whether or not you want to go on that stuff at that point. So I hope this clears up what I think about teenage training, and that's my advice for teenagers. Just train, get in there and train, don't overtrain, eat, rest, and you'll max out your gains. BioSUTraining@gmail.com. Leave comments down below. www.biosutraining.com is the blog, and we're out.